Hi, welcome to Curiosities Podcast. I'm Gary J, your host, and today I thought I'd ask the question, do ghosts really exist?
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
Now, we've all heard the stories and watched the films where some unsuspecting family move into a house only to be terrorised by some unseen force, and then that is then followed up by loud bangs, things being thrown around, furniture levitating, and in some cases possession. But are these stories actually true? Is this a true account of what is actually happening? Well, if you watch programmes like Most Haunted and Ghost Adventures, then the answer to that question is yes, because it seems that every place these programmes visit is always haunted every single time. Now, I have to say at this point that I actually do believe there is something out there, but I'm just not actually sure what it actually is. But as a ghost hunter, as I'm often called in the media, or even a documentary maker, I need to look at everything objectively and then look at the evidence provided. And that is what this podcast is all about. So, some of you may not like what you're about to hear, but some of you might actually agree with what I actually say, hopefully. But this is my whole take on things. Now, if you've ever watched my TV show, Curiosity, which is on Amazon Prime, you'll see that I've spent a lot of time in places that are claimed to be some of the most haunted in the UK and in some cases in the world. But you'll also notice that despite what other TV programmes are telling you, I have never ever seen anything that I would say was 100% proof of a haunting or anything paranormal. So why is this? Why am I not seeing what all these other TV programmes are seeing? Now, is this because I'm just the most unluckiest ghost hunter in the world, which to be fair, it's actually starting to look like, or are people just exaggerating or in some cases actually lying in order to get the 5 minutes of fame? Because let's face it, the revenue that the paranormal shows can pull in for some TV stations is in the millions, and for the paranormal group hosting such shows, their cut of that cash can often see them set for life, with fans buying things like merchandise, public appearances and even royalties. And some people will often fake things just to get a piece of that pie. Now, there's not a day since I started Curiosity that I haven't been contacted by some sort of ghost hunting group or some paranormal investigator telling me that I need to be using things like spirit boxes, K2 meters and just about every other piece of electronic equipment that's been used on all these TV shows. But in my personal opinion, the paranormal community has become that reliant on such equipment that we could often be missing some real evidence that's out there because we're so transfixed and using this type of stuff that often gives off false positives, that there's no real evidence that we're actually capturing ghost stuff. And we could actually, like I said, be missing it all, missing everything that's going on because we're too busy watching and listening to this crappy equipment. Now, that's my personal opinion. Now, as a matter of fact, this equipment is often said to be scientifically tested, yet there is no evidence from any credible source that this is actually the case. For instance, a spirit box. This is a piece of equipment that scans radio airwaves, and in between those airwaves it's claimed to capture spirits' voices, which in some cases are claimed to be intelligent responses to questions asked. Now, just hold on to that word intelligent just for a second while I move on. Now, I know a lot of you do use these spirit boxes, and, you know, that's up to you. If you're classing that as evidence, that's really up to you. But I personally think that's a bit of a weak point, because I have the problem with this little bit here of how do you know which is radio chatter and which is actually a spirit communicating? So, for instance, if I don't know, you're scanning the airways and it just scans really, really fast. You're hearing all the hiss in between. And every now and again you hear something that you're not too sure what it says and it's going... And you've already said, what's your name? You've already started to discount everything else that's coming through. And then all of a sudden you might hear the word Fred. Okay? So at that point you're saying, oh my God, he's called Fred. But it's scanning radio airwaves, so you've no evidence that that isn't actually a radio station, where because you're only getting part of it. That radio station might be like, "Hi, you're listening to Music Time and my name's Fred Smith," and all you've got is the word Fred, so you've no evidence that that is actually the case. Okay, so when you watch all these TV programs and you go onto YouTube and you see people using all this equipment, they often discount every other word until something comes through that sounds like the answer that they want. Now, to me, that isn't evidence. That's not clear at all. At what point, dead or alive human beings, did we start to communicate only using 1 or 2 word answers constantly? Because we like to communicate, we have sentences, and I know if I was a ghost and I died and I could come back, I would be speaking to you in a sentence. Matter of fact, I'd be on the Ellen DeGeneres show or Oprah or something like that. I would actually be there on TV saying, yeah, it's great over here or it's crap over here. Be careful what you're doing on your way over. That would be my personal opinion, okay? But remember I said, hold on to that word, intelligent. Okay, if this evidence really is an intelligent source, then why is it not having a full-blown conversation? Why are we not having full-blown conversations with these ghosts? And why, if it's so intelligent, do we need to put up subtitles on the screen? Is this because it's actually a power of suggestion? Because my personal view is that's what's happening. These TV shows and anybody else that's doing this is actually trying to give people the suggestion that's what it actually said. Because once you see that on the screen, that's what it said in your head. Because it's a power of suggestion. You try and watch one of them programs you've never seen before, and when it comes to using that, look away and you tell me what that spirit box actually says. There's only 2 ways that you will know what that says. One, if it's really, really clear, which is normally not, or if they're actually faking it and they're putting their own words into it in post-production later on. You see, the other thing is, if it's intelligent, why is it never in the same voice? Alright, so for instance, Fred, right? You're speaking to Fred, and all of a sudden, Sharon comes on.
Hello, oh my God.
Sharon just butts in. What the fuck is Sharon doing here? You were speaking to Fred. Where the fuck's Fred gone? That's what I want to know, because I was speaking to him a minute ago. What's your name? Fred. Right, so where's Fred gone? All of a sudden, Sharon's just turning up and just putting her to... So Sharon comes on and goes like, demon. Right, okay, so Fred, demon. So is she saying that he's a demon? Yeah, of course, yeah, whatever. It's not really not evidence. If that is your evidence collection, then I would say it's a really weak argument. Really weak argument. People are saying, oh, they can only get through little bits here and there. You can only get... Well, you're talking about an entity that can apparently walk through walls, throw things around, make lights flicker, go on and off and on and off, and attack people and scream, "Get out of here!" in a demonic voice, and then all of a sudden it's struggling to communicate through a device that has apparently been scientifically tested and is built for the job. Come on, start asking yourself the question. If you're one of these people that watch these programs, then you need to start asking questions like this. Why is this not happening? You see, it's the other thing. EVPs. Alright, let's go on for the EVP thing. You've got a full camera crew there with all the equipment. You've got thousands of pounds worth of equipment. Professional mics and everything. And they're using a shitty little recorder to get evidence. Why is it not coming through the mics? I know the mics that I use, and I know they would capture stuff if there was stuff there. But all of a sudden, we're at a point where we're actually using crappy little recorders that cost a couple of quid and not using recorders that are costing thousands of pounds. So it's recording into that little crappy one, but it's not recording into the lavalier mic that the person's wearing, the boom mic, and the mic that is attached to the actual camera. Questions, seriously. See, one of the other main things for me is, why when we speak to spirits, are they always in English? Every single one of them, they're always in English. At no point are they ever in a foreign language or in Old English. I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these should be in Latin, etc., but they never are. Okay, so at what point do we ever get to speak to a spirit that has a different dialect or a different language in a full sentence? Because at the minute, I'm not seeing that happen. I'm not hearing it happen at all. It just seems to me that the paranormal groups and the paranormal society, whatever you want to call us these days, spend more time trying to emulate what they see on TV rather than actually looking for clear-cut evidence of a haunting, because they're using such equipment and following what these TV shows for. TV shows are for entertainment purposes only. It states that clearly at the beginning of each paranormal TV show, and it does that for a reason. As I've already stated, those of you who have watched my TV program on Amazon Prime or on YouTube, you'll notice that I don't generally use any of that equipment unless it's to prove a point. And the only things I actually do use is a camera that has the ability to shoot up to 4K, even though I normally only shoot in HD, and I use audio equipment that is broadcast quality, you know, as in lapel mics and shotgun mics, you know. And the reason I actually do this is because I want to try and capture evidence that is clear in both visual aspects and in audio. Because time and time again, I see grainy video footage or photos of what people claim to be evidence in the dark areas that looks like it's been taken by a mobile phone in the early 2000s that is often blurred. If this video was for a crime scene and it had to go to court and that was given as evidence, you'd be booted out of the court straight on your ass. Matter of fact, the judge would lock you up.
You're listening to the Curiosity Podcast.
But normally when I point this sort of thing out, I'm met with things like, "You haven't got a clue what you're talking about, mate. It's plainly there." And then you follow it with, "If you look close enough." Well, fucking hell, what is it? Is it that? Is it plainly there or is it not? You know, should I need to look close enough? I mean, it's full of grain for one. Plainly not seeing anything. If you look closely, what, through all the grain into the dark void, but might or might not be a shape of a face in it. That is not clear evidence. Now, that to me just isn't clear. And it's certainly not evidence in my book. Now, it's at this point that they normally tell me that I have you've got negative energy, you've got negative energy, and that's why you can't see anything. And I've got a gift, and all the experts have told me my footage is real. Yeah, but they can never seem to tell me who the expert is and what actually makes them an expert. I mean, your Auntie Sheila is not an expert. A person claiming to have a gift just isn't an expert. Plus, how do you become an expert? Since nothing has ever been proven 100%, no paranormal event has ever been proven to be real. So, does that make you an expert of nothingness? Really? Is that where you're taking it? You know, you're an expert of nothingness because nothing's ever been proven. When I go out there with my camera and my audio equipment, like I said, it's clear, it's professional equipment. I'm trying to capture the best I can. You know, if you believe in orbs, which I don't personally, but if you do believe in orbs and you see an orb on my camera, that's what it is. You know, that you're actually seeing something. It's not in the grain, it's actually there floating in front of you, because like I said, my camera is professional equipment. Now, I know not everybody can, you know, buy professional equipment, but if you're claiming that you've got evidence, then you should be looking at upgrading stuff, because there's no excuse anymore not to have HD cameras. You can buy little GoPro copies that film in full HD, and you know, that is better than something that looks like it's totally blurred and from the early 2000s. See, the other thing is, if you notice that I film totally alone, and the reason I actually do this is because I don't want the chance of anyone else providing my viewers with any false evidence, either that intentionally or unintentionally by throwing stuff around or knocking something over accidentally. I can leave all that stuff to all the other TV programmes who, by the way, have all been caught faking stuff. Every single one of them. There is not one that hasn't been debunked at some point. So as far as I'm concerned, once you are debunked once, you're never trusted again. Simple as, okay? Now, if ghosts do exist, why do all of a sudden we need this equipment? That's what you've got to ask yourself. If ghosts are there, and they've always been there, because they will have been from the dawn of time, if that's the way God wanted to make it, and you died and you become a spirit and you floated around on earth for a little bit for some unknown reason, you would still be there, and we would have billions of ghosts, not just a couple. We would have billions of ghosts floating around. But what you tend to find is that any ghosts that people see are, from the 1800s normally or something like that. You never see anybody from who's a caveman, for instance. Or you never see a kid who's got his Nike trainers on, a bit of a break dancer. You never see any of that, do you? So why is that? If you're dead, you're dead, and if you're floating around, you're floating around. I mean, for God's sake, we've had 2 world wars. 2 world wars we've had, where millions of people have died. I mean, come on. Well, in my opinion, we don't need all this equipment. All we need is a good camera and some good audio equipment. But other than that, if there really are ghosts, we should be able to get the evidence if it's truly there, should we not? I mean, people have apparently been seeing ghosts for hundreds of years without any such equipment, and all of a sudden, I'm being told that I need to have this equipment, otherwise I won't see anything. Now, why is that? Why do you need all this equipment? I mean, if a normal everyday family can move into a house and witness things flying around and family members being assaulted without any such equipment, then why do I need it and why do you need it? Surely if a ghost is levitating things and then I go in there and, look around, the same should happen to me, should it not? Surely, if that is the case. But instead, when I actually visit places that claim to be the most haunted place in the UK, Europe, or even in the world, all I'm getting is the odd creak on a staircase without the bangs, without the levitation, or even being physically touched. Now, if ghosts really are out there in abundance, wouldn't our hospitals and cemeteries be full of dead people all walking around? I mean, you'd be sort of like walking through them on the way to, the chocolate machine or whatever, wouldn't you, surely? That said, we've had 2 world wars. 2 world wars. And millions of people lost their lives. Now, the world should be teeming with them. Yet, I'm the only ghost hunter that isn't getting anything. Am I doing it completely wrong? Am I the only one doing it completely wrong? I don't think so. So where does this leave us? Are there such thing as ghosts? Well, the problem with that question is it depends on you as a person. Alright, I think that's what it depends on. There are a lot of things out there in this world that we as people don't understand. Us as human beings, we really don't understand it at all. And even if I see things I can't explain, that just doesn't mean that it's not true. It doesn't mean that there's nothing there, but it also doesn't mean that it's something automatically paranormal. For me, if you can't explain it, check the evidence and then check it again, and then check it again. That's what I always do. And then when I've finished, I actually check it again, and then leave it for a few days, and then recheck it with a fresh pair of eyes and a new perspective. Now, if you still come up with the same answer when you're looking at your footage or you're listening to your audio or what's actually happening, and you're still coming up with the same answer that isn't right and there's no fakery involved, then what you need to then do is put it onto the internet and ask people what they think it is. But you do not tell people what you think it is, because then, again, you come into the power of suggestion. Alright, and that to me just states clearly that you're faking it, or it's a fake piece of work. At least something's not quite right. But I have to say, I've never seen any photo or video that is 100% proof that ghosts are out there and that's why I'll just continue to carry on what I do. I don't fake anything. I'm out there with my camera on my own with my audio source, and I keep looking and looking and looking. I'm not about to start faking it just because everybody else is. I'm true to the fact that I actually do genuinely want to find something. To be fair, I'd most probably absolutely shit myself when I did, but I certainly do want to find something without any fakery. Alright, there's people out there trying to make a lot of money out of something and actually ripping people off left, right and centre, and I'm not into that at all. So I just want to actually just visit these places and actually see if there is anything. So that's my take on things. All I can say is thanks for listening. I'm Gary J, and you've been listening to Curiosity. But remember, do something that scares you.
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.